Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero? We've all been hearing about the microbiome and how important it is for our health. It's kind of funny, right? Only 10 years ago, we believed that killing the bacteria on everything was the way to go. I mean, do you remember those sanitizer sprays everywhere? And now we're gradually learning that, surprise, surprise, not really, we actually need the bacteria around us to thrive and even survive. The thing is that everybody's been focusing almost exclusively on the bacteria in your body that helps you digest food. And that is really important because if you can't digest it, you can't live off of the nutrients, and then you develop all sort of GI problems and you have to... Never mind. But research has been showing us an incredible connection between bacteria in your gut and your mental health. Seriously. For instance, studies have shown that the bacteria in the gut of an animal can change its level of depression. And more research is coming out showing that the same exact thing probably plays a role in anxiety, depression, maybe even autism and ADHD. Isn't that amazing? So I did some research and I decided to add a probiotic mix that helps not only mood, but also the communication between my gut and the brain. It's called Amare, and their wellness kit takes care of everything that I need. The probiotics that have been researched to provide actual tangible help, and the prebiotics and everything that those bacteria need to thrive and do their work. I've been using it myself for 3 months, and I gotta say, it's really helped regulate my mood and keep me even. And it's helping me feel less foggy too, especially in the morning. Look, these guys really did their research, and this stuff is top notch. If you want to get it for yourself, just follow the link in our show notes and you can join the mind biome revolution with me. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Recovery Secrets podcast. My name is Adi Jaffe, and I am here with you today to talk about rituals. Now, there are a lot of different ways we can talk about rituals, and one of them, for many of the people that I work with, and maybe many of you, actually has to do with unhealthy rituals, right? Those habits, those compulsions, those things that end up finding their way into our lives, no matter how hard we feel like we try to fight against them. I can definitely tell you that there used to be a time in my life where those rituals took over seemingly everything. Like from the moment I woke up almost to the end of the day, my life was full of rituals that it didn't really feel almost like I had a choice in picking at the time. Just kind of things that I'd adopted that had become part of my life on a regular basis. Now, I get pretty honest on this podcast. Sophie and I get really honest on the Wednesday episode. And so, I want to talk about some of those because I think a lot of people end up having these and they become, again, these kind of shame-inducing, big, huge, unspoken of pieces of our lives that, as you all also know, I think we have to bring out to the forefront if we ever want to be able to do anything about them. So back in the day, I would wake up and I would say things to myself like, when I was trying to get better, I would say things to myself like, I don't need to use today. Or, I feel fine, I'm going to make it through the day. And then inevitably these rituals would come in. Earlier on in life, that meant smoking a lot of weed and drinking a lot. Like I would start drinking in the afternoons, maybe early evening, pretty much every day. And I would smoke weed within 30 minutes to an hour of waking up. When I started finding harder drugs after I went through a heavy depression, and those drugs really kind of helped me, I don't even know. I guess they just helped me make it through more than anything else. those drugs became a crutch. And that was, MDMA was something that I was using on a regular basis just because of how much I despised the way my life was going. And it just made me feel good. And I didn't really feel good any other way. So I was using that 2 to 3 times every week. And eventually I found meth. And meth became the ritual. So initially it started out with snorting it. And definitely, I remember with the few friends I had where meth was a big part of my life, it was our little secret, right? We would there was a ritual just in the getting together and talking about going and using. And then when smoking entered the picture, it was the ultimate, right? Smoking, even cigarettes, right? People who smoke cigarettes or smoke weed. And it's funny because I ended up doing research on this when I was getting my PhD. Smoking is one of those things that creates such a ritual for many, many reasons that I think it's important to talk about. And I'll name some of them. So one of them is the fact that when you smoke, you get a very quick effect of the drug, right? Because it hits your lungs and absorbs into your blood immediately, unlike when you swallow something and it has to go through your gut and get absorbed slowly and go through your liver. When you inhale, you get a smaller dose, but a much, much quicker effect, and then it passes more quickly. So you have to do it repeatedly. I remember, for instance, like for people who smoke cigarettes, on average, like an average smoker puffs over 300 times a day. And when you think about it, we don't necessarily think about each one of those as its own ritual. But if you think about it, how many things do you have that you do over 300 times a day? Not many. And since many of these activities give us the reinforcement, they give us a reward every time we do them. When you do something 300 times a day, it becomes a ritual. There's a term in neuroscience called prepotent response. And that's what ends up happening with a lot of these rituals. It's almost like they get activated by an outside or an internal state, like you get stressed out or you see somebody else smoking, and then there's almost a completely automatic response. Now, that might sound completely crazy to anybody who's never had an addiction to anything. Smoking, drinking Diet Coke, porn, drugs, whatever it may be, alcohol. But if you ever have, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you ever know somebody, then you know that they have told you that this is what ends up happening to them, is they almost get trapped in this cycle. Now, the thing is that most of the time, as we've talked about before, everybody focuses on changing that, or actually not even changing it, but eliminating that ritual, right? Like, if you smoke cigarettes, what should you do? You should stop smoking. If you use too much alcohol, you should stop drinking. Smoke meth, you should stop smoking meth. But if you followed me for long enough, you know that this really smart woman, about literally 2 decades ago at this point, at one of my first academic conferences, taught me this amazingly wise lesson. I think I've talked about it on the podcast before. If I haven't, let me know. Screenshot this, tag me, and let me know, and I will tell it in a different episode. But at the first conference I ever went to, sat on a bus next to her, and she told me, we're really bad at stopping people from doing anything. We are much better at getting them to do something else. And so people have these rituals, and we tell them to stop them, and they have an incredibly difficult time stopping them. That's why success rates are so low in the addiction field. And we tell them to put something else in there instead, another ritual. Now, I think that's the only reason AA works, if I can be honest about it. And that is, it gives you another ritual, another thing to do on a regular basis. The unfortunate reality is everybody hates participating in AA. And so almost nobody takes on that ritual, which means that nobody does well. And I mean, when I say nobody, I mean literally 1% to 2% of the people who need help get better through the current system. And so we don't offer anything else, though. We just don't. We call these people names. We say they're in denial, or they're narcissistic, or we talk about we give them all these other terms that essentially mean they're not ready for the real help. Now, if we step back and understand that these rituals have become these ingrained, near automatic responses that are present in the brain as a psychological and physical presence, right? When you learn about how the brain creates memories and learning, you understand that learning is an actual physical byproduct of growth of neurons and the connections of dendrites and these literally like trees of connections within the brain. And so trying to change them is a task, because you literally have to change the physical structure of your brain to do that. And I think that one of the ways that has been shown repeatedly that helps is introducing new rituals to replace the old rituals. So not just ending the old rituals, but rather replacing them with something new. And equally as important, working on those internal and external states, the triggers that turn on the faucet, that start the automatic response. And so, that's what we do. That's what I do at Ignited, is I really try to work with people on what it is that sets off the automatic response. And then I try to, once they are aware of those things, I try to give them tools to essentially recreate the rituals, create new rituals in place. Like I have rituals in my life on a regular basis that if I don't engage in, my days get thrown off. Waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, doing my daily journal, drinking my water, and exercising. And at this point, doing my Instagram lives, which if you've never joined, you really should. Between 6 and 6:30 a.m. Pacific, I go on. It's kind of funny. I'm on my bike. I'm on my stationary bike, and I do an Instagram live. It's funny and hopefully inspiring all at the same time. And so I have these rituals in my own life. And if I don't have them, my day gets thrown off. I mean, it just happened the other day. The baby woke up early. Sophie was here with me. And so I couldn't do it. I couldn't get on the bike and do my Instagram live. And I didn't even notice how much it was throwing me off. But Sophie paid attention and she thought it was something else. So it got us into a 5-second fight. But then I said, I'm missing getting on my bike. And she said, just go get on your bike. And she cleared the kids and went upstairs. And I was able to do it. And it helped me reset my days. And so these rituals, they create the skeleton. They create the scaffolding, as we talk about in psychology, or the border of my day, right? Beginning, middle, and end of my day, so that then I can build and put in the nuance and insert the energy where I really want it to go, because the rituals have created the structure of the day, and that is consistent, and that allows me to stay consistent day after day after day. And so there's a really cool announcement that I'm making for the first time really publicly here to you right now, and that is we are going to offer a 21-day challenge to help you, all of you, reset your own subconscious habits, give you the tools, give you the knowledge, give you the experience of what it takes to recreate your own habits. Now, it doesn't have to be addiction at all. It could be eating too much chocolate, or it could be smoking if that's something that you are struggling with. It could be working too much or watching too much porn, or anything that you have. We all have habits in our lives that we wish we had more control over. And so this 21-day course is going to give you the experience of what it takes to and how you can move forward. You'll probably work on one singular habit during this 21-day challenge, but the same tools will be able to apply later on. I'm super excited about it. It's going to launch April 1st. So get ready, because by April 1st, we will have everybody signed up, and then we will take everybody through a 21-day live experience. You will get to talk to me daily and connect with me daily, and I will guide you and walk you through this process using the latest research evidence, the latest tools that I've seen work with people day in and day out in changing their habits. Because in the end, I believe that if we can create in the present the best life we can have, that leads us into the best future we could possibly want. And yet so many of us walk around feeling out of control, where if we understood the tools, if we understood where to put our energy, if we understood what the focus should be or could be in our daily lives, we would realize that we actually have far more control than we even imagine. And sometimes we need a guiding hand for that. I know I had that early on in my experience in shifting the direction in which my life went. And while many of those early rituals that I used are no longer in place because I've replaced them with other more useful ones, more relevant ones for my current life, the experience is still the same. And within a 3-week period, we'll definitely be able to cement some of these habits for you. So I hope you will join us. I will announce much more about this. I know the power of habits in my own life. I know the power of habits in every successful human being that I've seen. And if you're struggling or know somebody who's struggling, do it with us. Join us April 1st. We will be going live, and I will make many more announcements on it. But I wanted to tell you about it here first. And, we will actually in the show notes to this have the first link to go online and let us know that you're interested. So excited, so happy to have hundreds and hopefully maybe even thousands of you join us in changing your lives, changing the world in these really nice, tangible ways so that you can move forward and do what you're meant to do in this world. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that this has been useful for you. I hope this week has been amazing for you, that you're going into an incredible weekend. Love you all for tuning in. See you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.